It is recording.
Hi, I'm Caitlin.
I'm Rachel.
I'm Bethany.
I'm Demi.
And I'm Tiffany.
So the summary of the project, the Ellison's preschool is a small school with a current communication deficit among its students. There are many willing and able students to help with the current behaviors. Currently, there are fighting over toys and tantruming. This could be resolved with the implementation of PECs. Our team is here to collaborate and inform about the usage of PECs.
Here is a quick example of PECs and how it can be used. Okay, so as you could see in the video, you had 2 adults and 1 adult acting as a child with autism. They were each able to communicate with each other while the other adult was able to prompt the child. 1 item was available for the child and 1 peck was available. This resulted in the child picking up the peck and exchanging it for the item. And this went on and on until the prompts were lesser and lesser, creating an independent communication system for the child. It's important to remember that reinforcement after each request is necessary in order for it to be successful. So PECS is an augmentative communication system that was used with pictures to help with social communication deficits. It uses behavioral techniques such as shaping, reinforcement, and transfer of stimulus control. So just like you saw, the child kept the picture, which is called the PEC icon, and they transferred the card to another person communicating their request. So this creates an environment that teaches the child to initiate when they want or need something instead of the adult asking the child if they need something. This can really help the child express what they need and lessen behaviors because there's no wondering what the child wants. They're able to clearly say, I want this, I need this. There are 6 phases of PECs. They're all very similar and they all build off of each other. So once you build your prerequisite skills, you can progress onto the next phase. So in phase 1, which was the video we just watched, the child is taught to communicate initially. So the child exchanges one single picture of an item, their highly preferred, most reinforcing item they have, and they are able to get the item in return. In phase 2, distance and persistence are taught. That means that the child will now have to travel a distance in order to get the PEC, in order to take the PEC to the person, and then they will receive the item in return. Then once they progress, they can progress onto phase 3, where multiple icons are introduced. Now, this really shows if the child is learning PECs or if they're just picking up the icon and handing it to them, because now they're able to distinguish between pictures they may want and what they may not want. So the PECs are arranged in a 3-ring binder with Velcro strips, and that's their communication book. And that allows for PECs to be stored and easily removed for the child to get and take to the adult in response, get an item that they were wanting. Once they are able to distinguish between the PECs, then they learn how to create sentences. And these sentences are structured in a way that I want this or I need this. So oftentimes an I want icon is placed on the front of the binder, and then the child can open the binder, get the PEC they want, and then they can construct a sentence from there. Once they get the I want plus the icon, then they're able to expand their sentence by adding adjectives, verbs, prepositions, anything that's in their communication book that they're able to stick on the front of their binder. Going on to phase 5, they have all of these prerequisite skills. Now it's time for them to answer your questions. Do you need something? Do you want something? Do you need a drink? Do you need something to eat? This way they can open their book, pick up a PEC, hand it to the teacher, and then in return get what they need instead of experience a behavior. Moving on to phase 6, the children are taught to answer questions such as, what is this? What do you hear? What do you see? Then they can create the sentence based off of their sentence. So I hear this, I see this. Those put those words on the front of their binder and then fill in the rest with a PEC. In order to move on from phases, they have to have one score of 80 to 100 in MTA. That means they're doing the same thing over and over again, the same skill with no newness added. Once they get one score of 80 to 100 in MTA, then they will progress to 2 scores of 80 to 100 in random rotation of all. That means you can add anything in, you can change items, anything that will help the child really progress in their stages.
Okay, so now I'm going to describe how training would look for an initial PECS program and a school implementation plan, school-wide implementation plan. For this program, we would do a group professional setting, just so that everyone that would be directly involved with the child would get this training. So this includes all staff. It will be the teachers, if there's any classroom aides, the principal, anybody, the nurse, for perhaps anybody who would come in contact with these children that would need to communicate with them throughout the day would be included in the training. The training will be conducted in the school setting just because that's the natural environment setting for where the PECs will be used. It will be an interactive initial training. So the first training would be very hands-on. It would be conducted as far as like a video and then like a modeling session, and then each individual will be expected to implement the phase of the PEC that is being focused on first. So there are 6 phases, so each phase would be individually trained on, and then till mastery. So after each initial training, and then once mastery has been proven for the staff, they would be able to attend follow-up trainings, and they would just be professional development skills to teach the use of PECs, to answer any questions. There would be more hands-on practice, and then there'd be feedback given from the instructor.
All right, so the Ellison Preschool services 200 students, 50 of which are general education and 150 are special education students 3 to 5 years old. 50 of the 200 students receive speech therapy, 20 of whom are nonverbal, and 5 are currently using PECs. So the concerns presented are an increased number of fighting over toys and tantrums have been observed in the school. Team of professionals at the Ellison Preschool is staffed by 1 lead teacher and 2 teaching aides. Besides the classroom staff, the preschool also has 2 full-time speech therapists, 1 occupational therapist, 1 physical therapist, a principal, and a BCBA on site. In addition to this team, the school also has anywhere from 4 to 6 parents available daily as volunteers from the Parent Volunteer Program. The parents who volunteer in the school usually have duties like helping set up lunchtime, helping the children in the bathroom, things like that. Like Rachel said, the Picture Exchange Communication System, PECS, is an augmentative communication system that uses pictures to help make up for communication deficits. PECS is frequently used with children diagnosed with autism spectrum disorder.
Hello. So for the first one, we're doing materials and data collection. And for the data sheets, it is phase 1 and phase 6. And some phases have sub phases, and that is 3A and 3B. And for the materials, there's PEC icons, a PEC book, and depending on what phase you're on, you won't need to use it. Like from the video that you watched, she wasn't using a PEC book. She was using just the icon on the table or on the book itself, and then they just were exchanging it that way. But you would need also Velcro strips for those icons that are on the PEC book, laminate for those icons as well, since they can get worn from repetitive use. And then phase 1 and 2 are focusing on the icon exchange and the travel to the communication partner and book as well. The PEC book isn't needed until phase 3 since you're distinguishing between the different icons.
Some strategies for personnel utilization and supporting policies. There are several trainings that can help familiarize staff with PECs, such as a training called the pyramid approach. This is an intensive 13-hour training that can help familiarize staff with the theory and protocols behind the PEC systems. Within this training, there will be a discussion of limitations of teaching other communication modalities as initial communication strategies, using presenter demonstrations through understanding and hands-on experience of each of the 6 phases of PECs. Other support for staff will be crucial when implementing a PEC system for the student. The one person that can be considered a helper while the other person can be considered a communication partner. By having at least a minimum of 2 people present with the client, can ensure more success for that student to utilize the PEC system accurately and correctly. Operational procedures to implement strategies. Those who would be implementing the PEC system would be anyone working with the individual who requires the PEC system. So for example, teachers, assistant teachers, aides, intervention specialists, any staff in that building that communicates with the student and the student's family. Materials needed for this would include a picture board, preferred pictures that the individual is trying to communicate, and as well as reinforcers. Those utilizing PECs will need to go through the proper training to be familiar with it, implement the 6 steps when using PECs, and then monitor the progress by collecting data and next steps. So the community and parents that are involved with this are people working with the child and can be trained by professional personnel or go through the training as well. Some strategies parents can do at home to help with the consistency piece can include creating a list of the child's favorite toys and activities, and then share the list with your child's IEP team in school. Consistency across the board is how the most success will come out of whatever strategies implementation that are being utilized at school should be consistent at home and in the community, as well as vice versa. Communicating with your child's team for communication books to use at home with appropriate symbols and pictures to use at home, as well as working with your child's team to use PECs at home or in the community.